Today, we're exploring the views of Clement of Alexandria regarding philosophy. Often, there is a misconception that religion and philosophy are at odds, but what did religious scholars of the past think? Was there really a strict dichotomy between the two? To begin our research, we first need to know who St. Clement really was. Clement of Alexandria, also known as Titus Flavius Clemens, was an influential early Christian theologian and philosopher. He lived in the late 2nd and early 3rd centuries AD and was a key figure in the Catechetical School of Alexandria, one of the most important centers of learning in the early Christian world. Clement is renowned for his efforts to harmonize Christian doctrine with Greek philosophy, particularly Platonism and Stoicism. His most notable works include Protrepticus, Exhortation to the Greeks, Paedagogus, the Instructor, and Stromata, Miscellanies, where he explores a wide range of topics from ethics and cosmology to scripture interpretation. Though not canonized as a saint in the Roman Catholic Church, Clement is recognized as a saint in the Eastern Orthodox and Anglican traditions. Now, let's take a dive into how Clement views the role of philosophy in Christianity. Let's start with how Clement defines philosophy and distinguishes it from sophistry. For Clement, true philosophy is a pursuit of wisdom and truth, ultimately leading to a deeper understanding of God. He sees it as a tool for seeking and comprehending divine knowledge. In Book 1, Chapter 7 of Stromata, Clement states, "Philosophy is not in geometry, with its postulates and hypotheses, nor in music, which is conjectural, nor in astronomy, crammed full of physical, fluid, and probable causes, but the knowledge of good and truth itself are requisite." This definition shows that for Clement, true philosophy goes beyond mere academic disciplines. It's about seeking fundamental truths about goodness and reality itself. On the other hand, Clement views sophistry as a misleading and deceptive practice. In Book 1, Chapter 3, he describes sophists as men stealers and glozing soul seducers, secretly, but proved to be robbers, striving by fraud and force to catch us who are unsophisticated and have less power of speech. For Clement, sophistry is not about seeking truth, but about winning arguments and appearing clever, often at the expense of genuine wisdom and understanding. This distinction between philosophy and sophistry is crucial for understanding Clement's thought. He's not anti-intellectual, far from it, but he believes that the pursuit of knowledge must be grounded in a sincere search for truth, not in a desire to show off or win debates. Why does Clement have such a harsh view towards sophistry? His criticism is rooted in the belief that sophistry is not only unhelpful, but actively harmful to the pursuit of truth and spiritual growth. In Book 1, Chapter 3, Clement doesn't mince words. "A river of silly words, not a dropping, just as in old shoes when all the rest is worn and is falling to pieces and the tongue alone remains." This vivid description portrays sophists as engaged in empty, self-serving chatter rather than meaningful discourse. Clement's language here is deliberately colorful and even a bit humorous. He's not just criticizing sophistry, he's mocking it. But why is Clement so passionate about this? It's because he sees sophistry as a dangerous distraction from the pursuit of true wisdom. In his view, sophists are wasting their lives on trivial matters instead of grappling with the big questions of existence and morality. Clement sees sophistry as not just useless, but potentially destructive. In Book 1, Chapter 8, he warns, "For the theft which reached men had some advantage, not that he who perpetrated the theft had utility in his eye, but Providence directed the issue of the audacious deed to utility." Here, Clement suggests that even when sophistry accidentally stumbles upon truth, it's not due to the sophist's intention, but divine providence making use of their misguided efforts. Clement's hatred of sophistry goes beyond just intellectual disagreement. He sees it as a moral and spiritual issue. For him, sophistry isn't just bad thinking, it's a kind of intellectual sin, a willful turning away from the truth in favor of clever-sounding falsehoods. In Book 1, Chapter 3, he even links sophistry to moral corruption. "Above all, men are beguiled, who are either bewitched by pleasure or terrified by fear." This suggests that Clement sees sophistry not just as an intellectual error, but a moral failing. We can see that Clement believes the sophist's ultimate goal is to maximize his own pleasure. Like the aristocrat or university scholar who sits in an ivory tower, the sophist uses his skills in rhetoric to justify his immoral acts. By twisting the meaning of words and giving the impression of great intellect, the sophist's true desire is not to search for ultimate truths of reality, but rather to satisfy their own ego. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Despite his criticism of sophistry, Clement actually sees great value in true philosophy for Christians. This might seem contradictory at first, but Clement makes a clear distinction between genuine philosophical inquiry and sophistry. In Book 1, Chapter 5, Clement boldly states, "Philosophy is in a sense a work of divine providence." This is a revolutionary idea for many Christians, both in Clement's time and even today. He's saying that philosophy, even pagan Greek philosophy, is part of God's plan for humanity. Clement elaborates on this idea, explaining that philosophy can serve as a preparatory tool for understanding Christian truths. In the same chapter, he says, accordingly, before the advent of the Lord, philosophy was necessary to the Greeks for righteousness, and now it becomes conducive to piety, being a kind of preparatory training to those who attain to faith through demonstration. This is a crucial point. Clement isn't saying that philosophy replaces Christian faith, but that it prepares the mind to receive Christian truth. Clement even goes so far as to compare philosophy to the Old Testament for the Greeks. Just as the law prepared the Jews for Christ, philosophy prepared the Greeks. He states in Book 1, Chapter 5, "For God is the cause of all good things, but of some primarily, as of the Old and New Testament, and of others by consequence as philosophy." This is a radical idea, that Greek philosophy could play a similar role for Gentiles as the Old Testament did for Jews. It suggests that Clement sees God's hand at work not just in Jewish history, but in Greek intellectual history as well. Clement is careful to maintain the supremacy of Christian revelation. He sees philosophy as a helpful tool, but not as an end in itself. In Book 1, Chapter 20, he clarifies, "Philosophy then, with all its blessed advantages to man, flourished long ages ago among the barbarians, diffusing its light among the Gentiles, and eventually penetrated into Greece." Here Clement is tracing a kind of universal history of philosophy, seeing it as a global phenomenon guided by divine providence, but he still sees this as all leading up to and finding its fulfillment in the Christian tradition. Some Christians might cite Paul's words to argue that he was entirely against philosophy and worldly wisdom. They might claim that Paul rejected all forms of secular knowledge as being opposed to Christian faith. However, Clement of Alexandria offers a much more nuanced interpretation of Paul's stance. In Chapter 11, Book 1 of Stromata, Clement directly addresses this issue. He begins by quoting Paul's first letter to the Corinthians. "This then, the wisdom of the world is foolishness with God, and those who are the wise, the Lord knows their thoughts that they are in vain." But here's the key. Clement doesn't interpret this as a blanket condemnation of all philosophy. Instead, he sees Paul as warning against specific kinds of philosophy. Clement clarifies by quoting Paul's letter to the Colossians, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." Clement then elaborates on what he believes Paul meant. The apostle, branding not all philosophy, but the Epicurean, which Paul mentions in the Acts of the Apostles, which abolishes providence and deifies pleasure, and whatever other philosophy honors the elements, but places not over them the efficient cause, nor apprehends the Creator. Clement is arguing that Paul isn't rejecting all philosophy, but rather philosophies that deny God's providence or replace God with other elements. He's making a distinction between philosophy that leads toward God and philosophy that leads away from him. Clement further emphasizes this point, "For the teaching which is agreeable to Christ deifies the Creator, and traces providence in particular events, and knows the nature of the elements to be capable of change and production, and teaches that we ought to aim at rising up to the power which assimilates to God, and to prefer the dispensation as holding the first rank and superior to all training." Here Clement is distinguishing between mere academic disciplines and true philosophy, which he sees as the pursuit of goodness and truth that aligns with Christian teachings. In his view, this kind of philosophy is not at odds with Christian faith, but can actually support it. Clement concludes by emphasizing the importance of discernment. "Prove all things," the apostle says, "and hold fast to that which is good," speaking to spiritual men who judge what is said according to truth, whether it seems or truly holds by the truth. In Clement's interpretation, Paul's words are not a rejection of all worldly wisdom, but a call for careful discernment, urging believers to seek truth wherever it may be found, while always keeping Christ as the ultimate standard of that truth. Now, let's tackle the big question. Does Clement think we can know God through philosophy alone? Clement's take on this is nuanced. He doesn't give us a simple yes or no. In the Stromata, Clement explores the role of philosophy in understanding divine truth. He states in Book 1, Chapter 5, "Philosophy is not in possession of the truth, but is a help to the pursuit of truth. For philosophy acted as a schoolmaster to bring the Greeks to Christ, as the law brought the Hebrews." Here Clement draws a parallel between philosophy and the Jewish law. He sees philosophy as a preliminary guide, much like the law served to guide the Hebrews before the coming of Christ. The term schoolmaster is particularly significant. It suggests that philosophy serves an educational purpose, providing foundational knowledge and moral guidance. However, it is not the ultimate source of truth. Just as a schoolmaster prepares students for higher learning, philosophy prepares the mind for a deeper understanding that is fulfilled in Christian revelation. Clement further elaborates on this idea by using the metaphor of a river in the same chapter. "The way of the truth is therefore one, but into it, as into a perennial river, streams flow from all sides. This imagery reflects Clement's belief in a unified truth that encompasses various streams of thought. The metaphor indicates that while different philosophical traditions and insights from various cultures may contribute to our understanding, they all converge towards a single ultimate truth. This view recognizes the value of diverse intellectual traditions, but also asserts that they are incomplete on their own. In Book 6, Chapter 17, Clement makes a striking assertion. Perchance, too, philosophy was given to the Greeks directly and primarily till the Lord should call to the Greeks. Here, Clement suggests that philosophy itself was a divine gift to the Greeks, intended to prepare them for the gospel. This statement implies a broader view of God's providence, one that encompasses not just the Jewish people and their laws, but also the intellectual heritage of the Greeks. By framing philosophy as a preparatory tool provided by God, Clement elevates its status from mere human speculation to a divinely ordained means of guiding individuals towards the truth of Christianity. Essentially, Clement acknowledges the value of philosophy in seeking truth, but maintains that it cannot lead to the complete understanding of God on its own. It serves as an important tool, opening the mind and preparing individuals for the deeper truths revealed through faith and divine revelation. This perspective allows Clement to engage with Greek philosophy respectfully, recognizing its role in the broader narrative of divine guidance, while still affirming the necessity of Christian revelation for fully knowing God. So there you have it. Clement's take on philosophy is far more nuanced and, dare I say, shocking than many might expect from an early church father. Clement shows us that the relationship between faith and reason, between divine revelation and human wisdom, has been a complex and fascinating topic since the very beginning of Christianity. His approach offers a model for how we might engage with different systems of thought today. He teaches us that it's possible to value and learn from other traditions while still maintaining our core beliefs. In a world that often seems divided between rigid fundamentalism and extreme relativism, Clement's balanced approach might just offer Christians a valuable middle way. So next time someone tells you that Christianity is anti-intellectual or that philosophy and faith don't mix, you can tell them about Clement of Alexandria. His teachings remind us that faith and reason, properly understood, aren't enemies, they're partners in the pursuit of truth. Thanks for joining me on this journey into early Christian thought. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more explorations of religious history. As always, until next time.